The code was older than most of the people hunting it, a relic from a colder world where secrets traveled on paper and loyalty was measured in silence. For half a century, it had resisted every attempt to be broken, hiding the truth of an operation that once shaped global power and then vanished into classified darkness. It was not a weapon, not a map, not a list of names. It was something far more dangerous, a buried intelligence truth whose exposure could still destabilize alliances long thought settled. When the first hint of its vulnerability surfaced, it sent a quiet shock through the intelligence community, signaling that history itself might soon be rewritten. The anomaly appeared inside a digitization project, a routine effort to modernize Cold War archives stored deep within CIA vaults. Millions of documents were being scanned, indexed, and cross-referenced by machine learning systems designed to detect patterns humans had long missed. One file refused to behave. Its metadata conflicted with its physical characteristics, and its encryption markers did not align with any known cipher family. Analysts initially assumed it was a cataloging error, but the longer they examined it, the clearer it became that the file was never meant to be fully understood. It's only preserved, waiting for a future moment when someone might finally see what had been hidden in plain sight. Within the intelligence environment, the discovery triggered a careful recalibration of priorities. Senior analysts requested historical context, pulling retired codebooks, intercepted transmissions, and declassified fragments from allied agencies. The file was traced back to the late 1970s, originating from a joint surveillance operation targeting a foreign intelligence service that no longer existed in its original form. At the time, analysts believed the code protected only routine field traffic. What troubled the modern team was not what the file said, but how deliberately it had been constructed to survive decades of scrutiny without yielding meaning. As the discovery phase deepened, signals intelligence specialists joined the effort, feeding the old cipher into modern analytical frameworks. Algorithms searched for linguistic fingerprints, statistical anomalies, and structural repetitions. Satellite-tier computing power attacked a problem designed for typewriters and human intuition. Slowly, patterns emerged. The code was not static. It evolved subtly over time, adjusting its internal rules every few years. Cyber analysts realized they were not dealing with a single cipher, but a living system designed to age gracefully, misleading future code breakers into believing it had already been solved. The escalation came when analysts mapped the cipher's evolution against historical events. Each structural shift aligned with moments of geopolitical crisis, covert wars, leadership changes, intelligence purges. The code appeared to respond to the world around it, adapting to protect information at moments of maximum vulnerability. The CIA formed a specialized task force, blending veteran cryptographers with data scientists, historians, and behavioral analysts. Their mandate was narrow but heavy with implication. Crack the code without triggering diplomatic shockwaves that could still reverberate half a century later. The task force worked in silence, aware that every breakthrough carried risk. As more fragments yielded partial meaning, references surfaced to assets never officially acknowledged, operations never admitted, and alliances never recorded. Hidden movements came into focus. Secret meetings held under cultural exchanges, financial flows masked as humanitarian aid, and communications routed through neutral states to disguise their origin. The code was not merely encrypting messages. It was preserving a parallel history of intelligence operations conducted beyond the reach of oversight. Confirmation arrived through an unexpected channel. A recently declassified foreign archive released under domestic pressure contained fragments of intercepted traffic bearing faint resemblance to the CIA file. When aligned side by side, the overlap was unmistakable. This was not a one-sided cipher. It was part of a bilateral intelligence exchange. Yes. A secret language shared between adversaries who publicly claimed hostility while privately negotiating stability. Satellites, human assets, and intercepted communications all pointed toward a truth long suspected but never proven, that a shadow understanding had existed, preventing escalation during the most volatile years of the Cold War. As the danger of exposure grew, the CIA response shifted from analysis to containment. Cybersecurity teams isolated the project from external networks, while legal and diplomatic advisors prepared for hypothetical fallout. The task force continued working, but with strict compartmentalization. Every new decoded line was weighed, not just for meaning, but for consequence. The code was unraveling faster now, its logic finally yielding to a blend of human intuition and machine precision. What it revealed was not betrayal, but compromise on a scale never publicly acknowledged. The tension reached its peak when the final layer began to fall. The code's core mechanism was uncovered, a self-referential loop that required knowledge of its own historical context to function. Once that context was supplied, the remaining sections collapsed rapidly. Analysts watched as decades of encrypted silence transformed into coherent intelligence reports, operational summaries, and strategic assessments. The most shocking discovery was not the existence of secret cooperation, but its success. The code documented how rival intelligence services quietly coordinated to prevent catastrophic misunderstandings, trading limited truths to preserve global balance. The climax came late one night when the task force realized the code was still active. It's not in use, but alive in the sense that its final safeguard had never been triggered. If fully decrypted and released, it would automatically signal allied archives holding corresponding material. A chain reaction of disclosures could follow, exposing a web of quiet agreements that still underpinned modern geopolitics. The operation shifted instantly. The objective was no longer to crack the code completely, but to decide how much of the truth the world could safely bear. The resolution arrived, not with revelation but with restraint. The CIA completed the decryption under controlled conditions, documenting everything, then resealed the core findings under a new classification framework. Select insights were shared discreetly with key allies, allowing them to reconcile their own histories without public reckoning. The code itself was neutralized, its trigger mechanisms dismantled so it could never activate beyond secure systems. The world remained unaware that one of the longest-running intelligence secrets in history had finally been laid bare. There was no press release, no acknowledgement, no ceremony. The success of the operation was measured by its absence from headlines. The diplomats who once benefited from the secret cooperation were gone, their decisions fossilized in policy outcomes rather than personal legacy. The analysts returned to other work, carrying with them the weight of knowledge that could never be fully shared. The cracked code joined a small category of intelligence triumphs whose value lay entirely in their continued silence. In the final reflection, those involved understood the deeper lesson. Intelligence is not always about exposing the truth. Sometimes it is about knowing when the truth has already served its purpose. The 50-year-old spy code was never meant to be read by the public. It was designed to protect a fragile balance at a dangerous time, and it succeeded. Cracking it did not change the past, but it illuminated the unseen architecture that allowed the present to exist. The hidden battles of intelligence work rarely end with clear villains or heroes. They end with decisions made in quiet rooms, guided by responsibility rather than recognition. This operation reaffirmed that some secrets are not buried to hide wrongdoing, but to shield the world from the chaos that full transparency can unleash. The unseen heroes of this story were not those who wrote the code or broke it, but those who understood what to do with the truth once it was finally revealed. Somewhere in the archives, countless other files wait encrypted by minds long gone, protecting choices made under impossible pressure. One day, technology may unlock them too. When that day comes, another generation of analysts will face the same dilemma, whether to expose history or preserve stability. Until then, the cracked code stands as a reminder that the most powerful intelligence victories are not the ones that change what people know, but the ones that quietly ensure the world keeps turning.